I see I kind of missed the 1 minute
sure.
warning, so we'll make it a 30-second warning. We'll get underway real soon here. Okay. I think everybody's in the room that we're expecting. We're after 10 o'clock, so I'll call this Municipal Planning Commission meeting for July the 25th, County of Newell, meeting to order. Welcome, Dan, online. That makes us all present for this meeting. The minutes, they are enclosed in your package. First of all, let's go back. We do have a couple people in the audience. Let's do introductions. Let's begin with Lynette this morning.
Good morning. Division 3 Representative Lynette Kopp.
Dan.
Good morning. I'm Dan Short from Division 1 Rolling Hills.
Good morning. Adina Scandrup, Division 2, the area around the hamlet of Tilly.
Good morning, Holly Johnson, Division 4, Scandia, Rainier, and Bow City.
Welcome, Matt Fensky, County Manager.
Good morning, Arno Dirksen, Division 9, the GEM area.
And I'm Kelly Chrisman, and I'm from the west side of the county, Div 6.
Good morning, Greg Screever, Lake New Resort and Castles area.
Good morning, Ellen Unra, and I represent the countryside around the village of Rosemary.
Good morning, Amanda Philpott, Division 8, Duchess.
Neil Johnson, Division 10, Brooks.
Catherine?
I'm Catherine Siaklak, the Communications Officer.
Cheryl Page, Planning and Development Administrative Assistant.
Morning, Sandra Stanway, Brooks Bulletin.
Colin Merton, Align Energy.
Gloria Schuett.
Thanks, everyone, and welcome. We'll go back to the agenda. Item 3, minutes in your package. How do you wish to handle them, MPC members? Holly?
I'll move acceptance of the minutes.
Any questions, comments, concerns? All in favor of Holly's motion? That is carried then. Carrying on. Any post-agenda items? Maria, Shanley, Matt, MPC, seeing none. Adoption of the agenda, please. Go ahead, Amanda.
I'll make that motion to adopt the agenda.
Thank you. All in favor of that motion? That is carried. Development report is in our package. Are there any questions for Shanley? Very short this time. The heat must be keeping our builders a little bit shy of their hammers. All right, we'll accept that for information. Thank you. No questions on that. Moving down the agenda, 7.2. Shanley, or sorry, 7.1.
Thank you. Development permit 2024052 is for the approval of an existing industrial medium business, specifically pipeline and facility construction. The business obtained a development permit in 2014 for Burton Custom Applicators, a farm and industrial machinery sales, rental, and service company. In 2015, the business restructured and became Align Energy. In the glossary of the land use bylaw, industrial medium means developments that and activities that do not have significant nuisance such as noise, appearance, and odor extending beyond the site. Align Energy involves pipeline welding, testing in their facility. They deliver the product to the location and install the pipe. Their pipe is stored outside the building for short-term intervals. There is no variances required. There was no issues or concerns with staff. There was no response from adjacent landowners. It was reviewed by the IDP committee, and there was no issues or concerns with them. We are recommending approval with conditions, and Mr. Burton is here to respond to questions.
Thank you, Shanley. Good morning, Mr. Burton. Is there anything you'd like to add to Shanley's informative?
Yeah, I don't believe so. I mean, originally how it got missed is we did have Burton Custom Applicators originally. We started up Align Energy inside of Burton Custom Applicators and then dissolved Burton Custom Applicators because of the change of partnership. So that's how it got missed. And yeah, we got asked for it from our group out of Calgary. And they says, well, do you got one of them permits you can show me? And I'm like, well, of course we do. It's on the wall. And I go up there. No, it's not.
Okay.
So it got missed probably 10 years back, I'm going to
Okay.
say.
Any questions? Any questions of Mr. Burton?
The one other thing I'll add, if you would like,
Yep.
is we were actually doing this same type of work inside of BCA prior to all the change. It was just one of the things that we involved into. And
And I'll just ask an administrative question of staff. Neighbors were consulted or advised of this change? Yeah. That's right. Thank you. Dan, any question? I can't see you right now. I just want to make sure that you're good.
Yep, I got no questions.
Thank you. Holly?
So for Shanley, this only came up because Colin realized it was missing. Would it ever come up on us noticing that was not approved the way it should have been?
Yeah, Shanley, thank you.
Generally, this would how we wouldn't know what was going on inside the walls of the building unless they brought it to our attention, or if the neighbors brought it to our attention. The other way would be through assessment. It would be brought to us through that.
So that begs another question maybe of me, and will there be a change in assessment as a result? Yes.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. And it just came to my head, so. All right, how do you wish to handle this application, Ellen?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the development permit with conditions
As outlined in
in
our
option one.
package. Thank you. Any further questions or comments? All in favor of that motion? That is carried. Thank you for coming in, and sometimes there's harder questions, more difficult, we never know. And thanks for paying attention to the situation eventually.
I wasn't much better. So, thank you, everybody.
Much appreciated. Have a good day.
Yeah, you.
Carrying on in our agenda, 7.2. Shanley.
Thank you. Development permit 2024056 is an application for the construction of a secondary suite external, which will be in addition to the existing shop on the parcel. The secondary suite will be constructed on the north side of the shop. The secondary suite and the primary dwelling will use the same approach. The primary house will remain on the parcel. There was no variances requested. There was no response from adjacent landowners. There was a concern from Stuart Lucchese, our fire chief, regarding what is stored in the attached shop and the potential hazards to the living area. And when reviewing with the building inspector, he had let us know that at that stage, at the building inspector's stage, they will review what is being stored in the shop. And if it is materials that require special ventilation, then that will be something that's required through the building permit to alleviate the hazard. We are recommending approval with conditions, and Mrs. Shewitt is here to respond to questions.
Great, thank you. Welcome, Gloria.
Or hyper.
You'll be just fine. Any questions on this application? Our applicant is here. So this, oh, Holly, go ahead. I'll hold my question.
So is this just a farm shop you're putting a front on it? Is that what it's used for?
Yes, yes. Can I give a little backstory?
Absolutely.
Okay. When we bought the farm 35 years ago, my mom said to me, you want to move into that old house? It was 85 years old at that time. So life goes on, and now I'm still in that house 35 years later. If any of you, I know Neil, your brother used to party in that house before I had it.
Not Neil.
If anybody remembers the Hubertinos, Dante and Aldo, anybody remember them? Well, their father, Peter, is the one that did the electrical work in that house, and I've never had it changed. So it's getting like in the basement at one time, before my basement started to fall in, it said 1904. So the house is really old. When we bought it, I just thought, well, I'm just going to go along with the house and make it everything antique-y. But now it's 35 years later. Since then, I've gotten a divorce. I live out there by myself. Everybody is concerned about me living in that house. And I thought about building a new house. But at my age, I really don't want to build a new house. It would be small. And I am concerned about selling my acreage afterwards. Somebody might not want a small house. So then my 14-year-old granddaughter said, Grandma, why don't you build a lean-to? And I went, oh, there's a really good idea. So that's why it's going to be small. I have I pull into the shop, I'm home. I don't have any flammable stuff in my shop. Absolutely not. I'm terrified of fire. But I guess the people will find that out when they come out. And so, yeah, that's my story.
That's great.
And
Thanks for
I
sharing.
love my house yet, the one I'm living in. I've never remodeled it. It's got so much history, like Art, Greg, Monty Mortensen were all born in my house. Jeff Mortensen owned it. And it's got their names in the basement and the little piece of cement that I have left down there. And it's a really neat house. I want to know if I keep that house standing, I can keep the house standing, right? If somebody purchased my place, could they knock it down and build a new house out there, even with my suite on the shop?
Yeah.
And I don't want any pressure having to knock it down next year. It's enough for me just building a new little place. So I don't want to have to knock it down, or I don't have to leave it standing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
And Maria and Shanalee can walk you through all those loopholes, and not loopholes, but
yeah, and they pretty much have already.
yes,
Yeah.
wonderful.
They've been so awesome.
So today we're talking about a new suite for you.
Yes.
Just off of the shop.
Yeah.
Great. MPC, how do you wish to handle this? Neil?
I would make the motion that we approve it with the conditions that Shanalee and Maria have talked about.
So that's option one, I believe. All right. Any other questions? Comments? All in favor of Neil's motion? That is carried then. I guess, Maria.
Just in response to the comment about the house, the way Shanalee has the conditions is that that primary dwelling stays. And so it would be the primary dwelling and the secondary suite. In the future, if that primary dwelling is torn down, there is always the option to add a new house on that location.
Perfect. That's what Gloria wanted, so that's wonderful. Thank you for coming in. Yes, you may be excused. Thank you. All right. Any other business? Hearing none. No post-agenda items. Any need for in-camera this morning? Seeing none, we will ask Catherine, is there anything any questions in the queue? Seeing none, I'll adjourn this meeting.
After 10, so I'm going to suggest we reconvene, or pardon me, call the meeting to order, council meeting for July the 25th, 2024. Seeing everyone in attendance today, there's no reason to have anyone excused from the meeting. We have the minutes of the July 11th, 2024 meeting. Is there any errors or omissions or a motion to approve the minutes as circulated? Lynette?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as circulated.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That is carried. Thank you. Call for post-agenda items. There is one post-agenda item, and that being with Stuart Lucci's, and he's just come in, so we will deal with that very shortly. Take a chair there, but we still have a few proceedings, but pull up a chair, Stuart. Welcome this morning. Any other post-agenda items to add, or if not, a motion to approve the agenda as altered? Greg, please.
Yeah, I'd like to make that motion to approve.
All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Are there any questions or notices of motion that have come forward this morning? Seeing none, we will proceed, and we will go right to the post-agenda item. Welcome, Stuart. You've had some activity on your plate the last few days from a municipality in Jasper that is under considerable stress. But go ahead.
Thank you, Reeve and Council, for taking me on such short notice here this morning. The AEMA has put out a call for firefighter resources to be sent to Jasper National Park. The recent fire report from yesterday was that this fire is classed out of control as of 6 o'clock last night. The residents or the structures within the town of Jasper were catching fire. I understand that the fire has somewhat gone through that community already, but there is a request for us to come in and assist with structural firefighting and water support. Tom Harnos from AEMA last night requested that one tender and possibly a Class 3 engine, which is a fire engine that basically has four-wheel drive capability to it, was the request. And at this time, they didn't think they'd need the engine. And as of talking to Tom this morning, he still wanted me to proceed with a request, but it's on hold. But he anticipates they are going to need our assistance fairly quickly here. What I have planned was for the 2 units, a total of 2 people in the tender from Dutchess, and a total of possibly 5 people in the Pisano fire engine. I do have contingencies set in place for automatic mutual aid, in particular to the Dutchess and even the Rosemary area, because that tender, and the Patricia area, because that tender kind of serves in those 2 communities as well, where we can have Pisano, Gem, or Brooks filter into the Rosemary area. We can have Tilly and Brooks filter over into the Patricia area. So we do have a plan in place for that. As far as the fire engine goes, Pisano has 2 fire engines. They have one pumper tender that has the ability to pump 3,000 liters per minute. The reason we created those trucks were kind of like a backup pumper truck for those fire departments that we have those in. So at this time, I think Pisano would have plenty enough. I have consulted with all the fire chiefs as well as the 3 municipality CAOs about this situation. I do have everybody's blessing to proceed, and of course come and ask you today for us to assist the province up in Jasper National Park. So at this time, I ask that council approve the 2 fire apparatus, 1 tender, 1 engine, and up to 7 firefighters to respond to the wildfire near Jasper, Alberta, as the province requests it.
Thank you, Stuart. And that is with the initial discharge will be the tender truck with 2 people. The other one will be on standby if and when it's needed then, right? If we approve that today?
Yes, that is correct. The tender would be the one that they would want right away, just simply, it's got 3,000 gallons of water, good water source to help with, as well as our ability to pump off of that truck for structural firefighting.
Okay, good, thanks. Well presented. Are there questions? Kelly, go ahead.
No question. Reeve Dirksen, are you ready for a motion?
I am. If there are any other questions or concerns, I'd like to deal with them first, but go ahead, Holly.
I just wanted to confirm that, like we have a lot of tall grass around here in dry conditions. If we do have a grass fire, you're confident we have the remaining capabilities to handle any fire that arises?
Yes, I have 100% confidence. Bizano, with having another fire engine and the pumper tender, they definitely have the water resource with automatic mutual aid coming. Same with Duchess. They would be able to get boots on the ground with their rapid response vehicle and their engine to start fighting fire with automatic call coming from either Rosemary, Patricia, or Brooks to assist them, as well as Jim. So I believe I have a really good plan in place, and we do have good protection for everybody.
Okay, good. Thank you, Stuart. Are there any other questions, comments? If not, Kelly, go ahead, please.
As part of my motion, I just wanted to thank the firemen for stepping forward and representing and saving what they can up there. I do want to also thank all the firemen, because it's added pressure for them as well. So as part of my motion, please wish them well and encourage them to represent our area as best they can.
Thank you very much for that, Ms. Chrisman, and definitely will pass that on. I can say that we've had conversations with the fire chiefs ever since Monday, wondering if we were going to be deployed, and there was a lot of talk about the tall, dry grass, quickly drying grass. Some of it is still green, but it's rapidly changing around the county. And on Monday, the thought was our rapid response vehicles, which are quick response to take care of things, we didn't really want to remove them. So when this request came for a tender and an engine, I thought it was a very good possibility for us to do that. The chiefs agreed with me, so we haven't taken it lightly, and we all know what our plan is moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Ellen, please.
Stuart, I was just going to ask, how long is the deployment going to last? Do we know what the request is for?
That's always a crystal ball. The request last night was for minimum 7 days, so we know that it would be a 7-day deployment. I have contingencies in place like I did last year. Our firefighters, when they are fighting up there, work 12-hour days. I say after 7 days, they've worked long enough and they need a break, so it's time to switch them out, where I will make arrangements to get transportation of firefighters from here up to that area and get those firefighters back so they can get their well-deserved rest.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? If not, we have a motion on the floor to deploy the 2 units as per the request from the province, with appreciation to our fire staff at all levels. So any further questions or comments? All in favor of the motion as presented, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you, and wish you well as you proceed with this. Stuart. Thank you very much. Thank you. Is Todd be available? Or do we have time to? We can get Maria back. Okay, yeah. Okay, our next agenda item in terms of time is at 10:45 with Todd, so I think if we'll move on to item number 7.1 when Maria is able to join us. Sorry, Maria, this came up. We had a slot here. Thanks for coming back in on short notice. No worries. We're dealing with Bylaw 2068-24, the road closure and lease of the northwest of 423 2013, west of 4, for second and third reading. Go ahead, Maria, please.
Thank you. The purpose of this application is to close the road allowances adjacent to the northwest of 4, 2013, as outlined in the attached maps. The subject lands are in Division 3, south of Millicent. All adjacent parcels are in the Agriculture General Land Use District. The applicant has installed a pivot which encroaches onto the road allowance. This bylaw received approval to proceed on November 23rd, 2023. Public hearing and first reading was completed on April 11th, and we received Alberta Transportation approval on May 31st. It is recommended that bylaw 2068-24 be approved because it allows the applicant to irrigate the land on either side of the road allowance to the best of their ability.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Maria on this second reading consideration? Kelly, go ahead, please.
I just wanted to reaffirm my memory. The parcels on both sides of the road allowance are not same title or same name, but you said they are related. Is that correct? Unless I'm looking in the wrong position, Maria, can you help me with that?
Now I'm going on completely off of memory. So I think the one that you're talking about is actually a different road closure.
Okay.
That one is north of Patricia. This one is south of Millicent.
Okay.
And it is not the same owner on either side. However, I do believe that they are connected potentially by a lease agreement. But I'd have to look into that one to fact check.
Okay, so is it typical for us to close a road allowance when the ownership is not the same and the irrigation goes across into another owner's land? Yeah, separate titles.
So for this one, the infrastructure only goes into the road allowance. It doesn't cross onto the adjacent property. However, you can see that the end gun does sprinkle into the neighboring property. So I guess there is an encroachment of water that can be dealt with between neighbors. The end gun could be turned off. As we've been working through the road closure policy, which hopefully will come to council soon, we're dealing just with physical encroachment of infrastructure and not water. But that's something that council could consider.
Okay,
Thank you for that.
Thanks, Maria. Any other questions? Go ahead, Lynette, please.
As we're doing that policy, are we going to be considering the fact that, like, let's say the owner on the other side is like, whoa, why does he get to lease that and I don't? Are we going to make sure we have something in the policy that's going to cover that if it were to come up?
Go ahead, Maria, please. Yeah.
I think that's very important to note because it does create, it makes it a difference, I guess, for the adjacent landowner. So part of the bylaw process, all adjacent landowners are circulated to. We also have discussed that letters are signed by adjacent landowners, ensuring that they are okay with the road closure. So they are involved in the process.
Okay, thank you. Holly.
I'd like to move second reading of this bylaw.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to approve second reading. Neil, you got a question?
Yeah, is this where you deal with the rent on the encroachment? What is it on this one?
Go ahead, Maria, please.
So the next step will be that we enter into a lease agreement. Currently, the lease rate is $100 per mile or portion thereof. So this would be $100 a year. That will also come to council for review with the new road closure policy.
Okay, thank you. All in favor of the motion as presented to approve second reading, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. And secondarily, is there a motion for third reading? Adina, please.
I'll make the motion for third reading.
Thank you for that. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Maria. Let's move to item 7.2, electoral boundaries, third reading. Matt, are you taking us through that?
Yeah, nothing much to say. We advertised, waited for the petition period to pass. It has passed without a petition being received. So that's a good news story, and council's in a position to give third reading to the bylaw.
Okay, good information for us. Thank you, Matt. Is there someone prepared to make a motion for third reading for the electoral boundaries decision? Lynette?
I'll make motion for third reading.
Thank you for that. All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That is carried. Thank you. Let's move to Mr. Todd Green is in the room. Are you prepared to take your agenda item about 7 minutes early? I am. Welcome. All right, Fieldman's report. Welcome, Todd.
Perfect, thank you. Not only am I ready, I'm excited to go early for you guys today.
That's good.
So just a report for me today, and then all of the wonderful questions that I hope we have an opportunity to. I'm okay?
100%.
Okay. All right, so we talked a little bit about our roadside spraying program last time I was in. We did wrap up on the north side of the highway, and we sprayed all the local roads as well as the highways under contract for Volker Steven. We're cleaning up some previous construction roads and some road edges right now. The guys did a little bit of a tour when they find some time, they go and they take a tour and look for anything that needs some extra attention. So if anybody's been out touring in the south specifically, but anywhere really, anything that needs a little extra attention, let us know. We probably have a week or two of decent spraying weather left before everything is cooked. The vegetation on the roadsides flourished. We talked about that. When I looked on Tuesday, everybody was across the number one highway. So we're hoping, early not next week, the week after, we'll be kind of just about wrapping up on the north side. That's kind of the hope, but we're not exactly sure. It just depends how good the grass is. We have had a good weed control year, but it is a tiring one. The VMTs double not only as weed inspectors, but also the sprayers, so they don't get a lot of reprieve. The contract work is done, and Downey Brome Hoary Crest had a great year, obviously, and I suspect Burdock has as well. Burdock, if you guys have no experience with Burdock, has a very thick seed coat, so it takes some pretty decent soil moisture to germinate, and that's kind of what we had this spring. So I anticipate there's quite a bit out there. Bow River program kicked off on the 15th, a little bit earlier, but kind of seems like the norm for the last few seasons. Our target weeds have changed, so we're really hitting common tansy, yellow toad flax, black henbane, and leafy spurge, unfortunately. So that kind of changes our timing of going out there. We used to be just scentless chamomile, and 90% of it was picking. We've changed our program a little bit, which allows us to do a little more spraying, and that's good news. The interesting thing, we usually get different weeds when we have high water levels. So we anticipate next year we'll be back to chamomile and some other fun weeds. Clubroot survey started about the same time. It's much easier for our visual clubroot survey to be done when the canola is the most vibrant. So the flowering was a little earlier this year, and it ended a little earlier. So we kind of got out and tried to get as much done as we could while it was easy to spot any discrepancies in the field. We will have a bacterial ring rot survey next week, as well as some Fusarium graminearum once the wheat starts to turn. So anytime soon. Grasshopper populations, at least in the fields that I've seen, seem high. We have heard that fungicide applications were also being insecticide applications, so that's not a good sign. We need a couple more cool, wet springs to really get them back to manageable levels without having to use insecticides. Emerson, kind of an okay year. We're about 60% of our revenue as what we usually would like to see, but lots of month-long visits, which is kind of nice. That's allows us to create a relationship between our Emerson Park supervisors and the people that are staying there, and that's kind of, I think, fun for everybody. And between the Shelter Belt Maintenance Partnership with the EID and the other mowing, the crew has been flying. I don't see them much, especially when it's hot. They're kind of in at 5 and they're gone at 2, and usually they're out of energy to even come up and gripe about anything that may have gone on during the day. But we have been quite lucky that the hamlets have stayed green. I think they look amazing this year. It's not every year we get 3 full months of green, so we'll take that for what it's worth. Rural beautification judging took place on the 18th. Thank you for Dina for helping us out. We do have our 3 winning yards. We're touring them tomorrow with 43, I think it is, participants in our tour. So we're going to Rob and Lisa Romans, and Peter and Yuta Sprunger, and Martin and Linda Gubbins. So exciting for them. Absolutely gorgeous yards. And we certainly didn't see any yards that weren't worthy of winning. The rental equipment stuff is there, and that's about all I have for you.
Thank you, Todd. Are there any questions for Todd? Lynette, go ahead, please.
What's the criteria for knowing when you follow your mowers with fire suppression? Does it go with the fire restriction and fire bans?
Yeah, the roadsides tend to be a little bit greener than other areas just because they collect all the water that runs off the road and irrigation water. We rely pretty heavily on our mower operators to tell us when things are what they're looking like. It also depends on what area they're in. Some areas have more rocks and more debris in the ditches, so they might request one at a different time. And then, just kind of from our own observations.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Amanda, go ahead, please.
Todd, on the rental equipment, is that on par for this year, or how's that looking?
I've gone down this rabbit hole before trying to figure out what normal is, because every year something is different. Sometimes our livestock chute goes out 15 times in a year. Sometimes it goes out 5. Sometimes our insecticide sprayer goes out lots, sometimes not. I'd say it's on par. Our drills, I did look at last year's number. The acres are different. The renters are about the same. So there's really not, I don't know if it's ever, I don't know how to compare it. You know what I mean? It's, especially when it comes to skunk traps and things like that. Some year it's way high and some years there's nothing. We do sell a lot of traps also. So we kind of kick ourselves in the foot. It's hard to get rental revenue when you've sold a lot of traps to people. But I think it's general.
Especially magpie traps, eh?
Magpie traps are really good, yeah. But the good news about magpie traps, people usually forget them in a field and then they accidentally run over them and then you sell another one.
I see you've given notice. Thank you. Holly and then Adina, please.
A magpie trap, I'm not familiar with it. Does it catch other birds besides magpies, or it specifically attracts magpies for some reason?
Yeah, magpies are a funny bird. We have caught other birds, specifically where we leave them down below in our east yard. We'll catch other birds. We try to leave them knocked over so we don't catch any birds. Magpies are funny. So you put it's a piece of rotten meat, or if you shoot a gopher, you can put them in the trap. Magpies will walk all the way around the outside of a trap to find the opening. So it's a round trap, where if we had a square trap, a magpie would walk up the end, not find a hole, and then bugger off. Yeah, magpies are a funny bird that way. So it tends to be very specific to magpies that we catch.
Thank you. Dina, please.
So I just wanted to say, I noticed update on the bulletin board down at Emerson Bridge. I was glad to see that. Also, I took a walk the other day up the pathway here, and you just about have to have body armor for the grasshoppers there. It's pretty bad. So I don't know if anything can be done about that. But anyway, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, I think that's pretty typical in most grass situations right now, the dry grass for sure. They're looking for anything green. I know in our little pivot corners that they're just attacking the wheat right now. It's unbelievable. So spraying for grasshoppers lasts about 3 days. If you spray, they kind of tend to move in pretty quick.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? If not, a motion to approve or accept the Ag Fieldman's report would be in order. Holly, please.
I'll make a motion to accept the ASB report.
Okay. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you very much, Todd.
Thank you.
Let's move on to item number 10.1, Planning and Development Report for January to June. Maria, please. Welcome again.
Thank you. The Planning and Development Department continues to review policy within the land use bylaw and update it accordingly. Text amendments were adopted by Council in April and in June of this year in response to discussions with developers and in effort to remove unnecessary red tape in the permitting process. Our development officer, Shanna Lee Simpson, initiated an open house on June 6th. This allowed the public to attend the county building and learn more about the services provided. I think that it was fairly well received, and we hope to do it again next year. Development permits were about average, I would say, compared to previous years. There are more permitted uses than in previous years, and I think that council can be thanked for that, for removing red tape with our land use bylaw. Notable developments so far in 2024 include the farm resort concept north of Millicent, agricultural school in Rolling Hills, and 5 greenhouses near Bizano. And there was also numerous residential developments. The Alberta Safety Codes made some changes to their procedures in the first half of 2024. One of them being that historically, Hutterite colonies were able to apply for homeowner permits for multi-unit dwellings within colonies. The allowance for homeowner permits is specifically for single-family dwellings. So multifamily housing or row housing would not meet the intent of the homeowner permit under the Alberta permit regulations. So now row housing and Hutterite colonies can no longer be permitted, and they would require a certified journeyman to get the permits for plumbing, gas, and a master electrician to get the electrical permits. This hasn't been very well received, as you can imagine. Also in the new regulation for building permits, shipping containers no longer require a permit, which I think is great because not a lot of people are coming in getting building permits for those anyway. So I think that that's a good change. There has also been changes to requirements for ag buildings. It has been determined that farm buildings that include spaces that would typically fall under commercial occupancy, offices, meeting rooms, lunchrooms, can now be classified as a farm building if they are for the necessary and exclusive use of the farm operation. So historically, building permits were required for the non-farm portion of an ag building. However, that's no longer the situation. This could get a little bit tricky if a building if the use of the building changes from agriculture to something commercial. So if there's an intensification of the use, or ag building now changes to some sort of industrial use. So if the building does not have necessary safety codes permits, it could impact insurance claims and liability for the owner in the future. All agricultural buildings still and continue to require gas, electrical, and plumbing permits. So the number of construction permits is actually more than the last 3 years. And we also have a much larger total value for construction permits so far in 2024 compared to other years. And I think this could be attributed to some big projects that we've had, like the JBS expansion. Subdivisions have been down quite a bit. I'm not sure what the reason is for that. And then road closures we talked about already. There was 3 road closures initiated so far in 2024, all for the purposes of irrigation expansion, which I think shows that we are working well with the EID. And we are working on the road closure policy, and we should have something to council really soon. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that, Maria. Are there questions? I have one question. You talked about agriculture building use changes in the future to something more commercial. Would that be considered outside of the realm of, say, value-added agriculture, or is adding value to an agriculture product also considered primarily to be commercial, or is there a judgment to be carried out or applied to those decisions?
That's a good question. I think it falls more towards how many people are in the building and working in there, but it would be a case-by-case basis, and that would be determined by the building code inspector.
Right, okay, thank you. Any question? Greg, go ahead, please.
Thanks for the report, Maria. With respect to hamlets, are we set up to encourage multifamily, multi-unit dwellings in our hamlets? And the reason why this has come up, I've had a couple business owners that have come to me and says, housing is a real problem for them. And this doesn't have to do with JBS or any of the large employers. These are more or less your small to medium-sized business owners that are really having a hard time with housing for their people. So are we set up within the hamlets for growth like this? And we don't want to be deterring any developers from looking at hamlets for these type of units. How are we set up for that?
Go ahead, Maria, please.
I think that's a very important conversation nationally, and we've been dealing with housing and housing ideas at a lot of the planning conferences that are being held throughout Canada. So for us, in the residential hamlet district, a duplex is a permitted use. And then a multi-unit dwelling, so anything more than 2 residences on a parcel, is a discretionary use. And then if we're looking at buildings that are zoned business or commercial, we do have a mixed-use building that's an option. So that would allow a business owner to create some living units within their business building.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, a motion to accept the planning and development report as presented would be in order. Amanda, please.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Maria. Let's move on to item number 10.2, our tax sale by public auction. Lane, please.
Good morning. This is an annual process that we go through. required to have council set the terms and conditions for the tax sale. The details are in the report that has been provided.
Thank you, Lane. Are there any questions? Seeing none, is there someone prepared to make a motion that we proceed with the tax sale as per the recommendation? Adina, please.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Lane.
Thank you. Quick and easy.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to item number 10.3, Foothills Little Bow Municipal Association meeting, which will be held on September 20th. There is a notice to us as members with regard to that meeting. And there is a cutoff of sometime, can't remember the date, but it's in August with regard to motions or any resolutions that we might want to bring forward. And I think we've had some informal discussions about the potential for that, but are there any comments or questions with regard to that? Holly, go ahead, please.
Were we looking at, I'd be interested in putting forward a resolution that carbon is not a pollutant, as similar to what Saskatchewan had done.
Okay, yeah, we saw a resolution like that at the spring conference, or was it last fall's? It was in spring, I believe, right. So what's the process for that? We'd have to just get that worked up and get ready for us and then pass it on to some other municipalities, so there's knowledge ahead of time of it coming and probably some support for it. And I think there's been some informal conversation about support for that already as well. So go ahead. Dan, you had a question or a comment?
Yeah, I just want to know if we're going to be saying something like that, do we have scientific research to back it up?
Sorry? Can you repeat it? Yeah, just repeat that question one more time, or comment, Dan. I think not everybody heard it.
I'm curious if we're going to be putting a motion out saying that the carbon, I'm assuming carbon dioxide is what you mean. If we're going to be putting a resolution to say that it's not a pollutant, that we have scientific research to back that up.
Okay, I think that's a good consideration. I certainly think there is information out there that's been well circulated and documented by scientists that would support a resolution like that. But I guess at the end of the day, it'll be a matter of whether the group's supporting or not supporting it, accept the information. So I would say the answer would be yes. Unless someone has a different perspective. I think we would always look to have some background information to support the position we take, right? Kelly, go ahead.
So before we move forward or instruct staff to spend a lot of time on this, can we be refreshed of the resolution that was passed in March at RMA? Just so that we're not redoing what has already been done.
Which resolution?
You referred to a resolution.
No, there was, okay, go ahead, Holly.
That was a resolution put forward by the Saskatchewan municipalities at their convention. And we talked about the value of Alberta following that, but it was not one passed at the RMA in the spring.
I misunderstood that then. So maybe bringing the information to the next meeting, we could review that information and decide from there.
I think that sounds good. Matt, staff can work that up in time for our next meeting, right? Okay. So, okay, I don't think there's more to do on that at this point. Just a motion. Maybe just a motion that we instruct staff to go ahead with that. Kelly, so moves. All in favor, please indicate. Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, thank you. It being 11 o'clock, and we have Sergeant Searle with us this morning. Welcome. Thank you. Pardon me? Yeah. And Sergeant McCready, right. We will, let's have introductions here. If that's useful for you, we'll introduce ourselves. Neil, go ahead and start, please.
Welcome. I'm Neil Johnson, Division 10 Counselor around Brooks.
Good morning. Amanda Philpott, Division 8, Duchess.
Good morning. Welcome. Ellen Unra, and I represent Division 7 around the village of Rosemary.
Hi, good morning. Greg Screever. I'm Counselor Lake No Resort and Castles area.
Good morning. I'm Kelly Chrisman from the west side around Bassano area.
Good morning and welcome. Arno Dirksen from the GEM area, Division 9.
Good morning, Matt Fensky, County Manager.
Welcome, Holly Johnson, Division 4, Scandia, Rainier, and Bow City.
Good morning, Nadina Scandrup, Division 2, the area around the hamlet of Tilly.
Welcome, I'm Lynette Kopp, Division 3, Patricia Millicent area.
Thank you all for having us. Sergeant Searle with the RCMP here in Brooks. I brought Corporal Sharon McCready. She's the acting operations NCO of the detachment. Took Joe's place when Joe went over to Bassano. Sharon's a great asset to our office, and obviously Joe was, and I think the saddest thing about having Joe leave is I won't get to hear you guys call him my assistant anymore, so.
For the record, right?
Yeah, so report from April, May, and June of 2024 for the County of Newell. We responded to 418 rural calls for service during that time, lodged a total 106 prisoners in the detachment, and completed 143 criminal record checks for residents of the county. A total of 112 violation tickets were also issued by Brooks RCMP within the county. Some significant calls that we attended from April to June. On April 18th, there was a theft of a truck that occurred at the Sundial feedlot out near Bassano. Didn't have a whole lot of information other than the truck might be headed towards Brooks. So our general investigation section, along with several members of general duty, made some patrols around town. We located the truck on 2nd Ave in Brooks. We conducted a traffic stop and arrested the driver, who was a 23-year-old resident from Brooks, and charged him with theft of a motor vehicle and possession of property obtained by crime. On May 20th, we had a report of a stolen vehicle out near Tilly. The guy's truck got stolen and fled on Highway 875. We made some patrols, but couldn't end up finding the vehicle. Later on that day, someone located the stolen truck at a industrial area in Brooks, and they had their vehicle stolen from that property. And this just continues, and it just shows, you know, the thefts from vehicles, that they're not like, you know, unique to one area. That people steal vehicles from Tilly and end up using them to commit crimes in Brooks and vice versa, Calgary, the surrounding area. So I think we ended up recovering all of the stolen vehicles from that day, and still working on identifying some suspects. On May 22nd, there was a break and enter to a vacant residence out near Tilly. The residence was unoccupied at the time and suffered extensive damage to the inside. There was no video, no evidence at the time, so no suspects have been identified. On June 24th, we had a single vehicle rollover on Highway 550 towards Rosemary. Brooks, as well as Bassano RCMP, attended that scene. Luckily, there was just minor injuries for the driver and the passenger. Cause of the crash was a mechanical failure from the vehicle. That's the significant events. I've included some statistics from the months of the last 3 months, and you know, according to the statistics, the you know, property crime, persons crime is down in the county. You know, that's supported by what by the statistics, but we have noticed, like in the last few weeks, there has been an increase in some break-and-enters and some property crime, both in the county and within the city. So we're working on identifying some suspects for that. that's my report. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much for that report. Are there any questions or comments from anyone? Kelly, go ahead, please.
I want to pick up on a comment that you made about, and it's in your report also, about CCTV. So are you recommending, or do you recommend to folks to get cameras?
Sure, I'll let Sharon answer that because she runs a great program in relation to that. So.
Okay.
So part of what we call CPTED, which is crime prevention through environmental design, one of the biggest things that we find is when people have cameras, we can identify suspects, and it also actually deters theft. So we often are telling people, please just get your simple system from Amazon, front door, back door, in your garage. Obviously in the county, one of the big things, so I'm part of our Rural Crime Watch group that meets down in Medicine Hat every quarter, and we had a guy come and speak about drones in the last one. It's very fascinating to me. They're finding some of our criminals are getting very techie, and they're doing counter surveillance, or really surveillance of farm yards, looking for vehicles left unattended, kind of a farmer's move in a day, and it is increasing their ability to survey a property without people knowing. Because lots of people, it sounds like a bee buzzing, but they have technology that they were recommending for farmers, that they can shut the drones down, they can have surveillance and cameras all over and can identify them. So I talked to a lady at this meeting, and she shared a personal experience with me with that. She's like, I was outside and this drone flew in my property. So we got dogs and we got cameras. And she hasn't had any issues since, but it has her scared because she lives in rural area down by Medicine Hat. So we are just changing around our security camera system. We just met with K Division. They're changing some of their things up there, and they're going to have more of a system where we can track in the sense of a crime happens at your property. We will know your neighbor has video surveillance. It just helps cut down quicker on our neighborhood inquiries. But definitely the big thing is video surveillance, even your doorbell cameras. We're telling people with Amazon nowadays, it's super cheap, and it's just a great deterrent, but also it's evidence for us. It's nothing more frustrating than like when we have stolen vehicles and we have nothing to go on. There are different crime syndicates across the province that are working. We put 3 guys in jail. Well, the next guys come from Calgary or from Red Deer. They're just moving around looking, and then we don't know who they are. And it takes time to figure out, okay, who's in our area, whose parents and grandparents has a property in Gem or in Rosemary, like some long lost relative who shows up looking to crash. Lots of people in our area are very kind and willing to provide places for people to stay. Unfortunately, some of those people are bringing their friends that they've met along the way in unruly places. And so it has been, a bit of an issue around our area for sure. Just as we kind of get somebody in jail, the next people are coming. Video is what we rely on heavily. It's what we're telling our oil sites with the copper wire thefts and different things as well. If we can have a make and model of a vehicle, we know it's that silver pickup truck is there, then we get another hit in Tilly, then we get one in Rosemary. Well, somebody is making the rounds. So we can start to put pieces together, but without video or any photos, it's really hard for us to do, right? Yeah.
And sorry, just to build on that, like we run the CPTED program out of our detachment. We have members who are trained, and like there's a science behind designing your property with the concept of reducing crime. So we're offering this service to any business in our area as well as the rural residents, free of charge. So make sure you tell your residents, if they're interested in it, phone the detachment. We'll send someone out who's trained. They'll assess your property and make some recommendations on how you can make your property safer for yourself. So
That's really good information. I appreciate hearing that, and that's something that we can circulate to people as we have opportunity to residents, because that is a very proactive way to approach this. And I assume from that, do you keep track then of where there are systems installed to some extent, or you just...
We have a registry in Brooks that we started a few years ago, and we did a lot of advertising behind it, and we got a lot of people taking part from Brooks, not so much the county,
right.
A few from Dutchess, but it's certainly like that just cuts down on our our time when we're looking, doing neighborhood inquiries, we know where the cameras are. But that program's still running if anyone's interested.
Okay. Oh, that's good to hear. Dan, you've got a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, what's the name of that program again?
Yeah, it's called Crime Prevention through Environmental Design. CPTED is like the short form, CPTED. Yeah. So
Okay.
myself and
Thank you.
Kelly Sanford are going to be your people to connect with. Kelly is a municipal employee who runs our safe communities, and we work together, but she's probably the best person to coordinate, and we'll figure out timing. Yeah.
Great, thank you. That's good information. Any other questions or comments? Amanda, please.
I'm just curious with the hot weather these last few days, how are we supporting the seniors? How's that looking for safe places for people to go to stay cool?
For sure. So that's something I guess I necessarily haven't come across this week. I know we've had a few hot dog complaints in that kind of regard. When our members are out, if they see someone struggling, they're stopping and checking. We talked about it in briefing yesterday. I just said, look, with the hot weather, if we have any call, especially kids left in vehicles, we need to be really fast. It can take 20 minutes and things can go downhill. I said for your elderly or for your children. We have thankfully not had that phone call this week, but our members are out there, and if they're seeing anyone struggling, they're stopping to help. But we don't have like a specific program with the heat, but something we could consider. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Holly, go ahead, please.
I have a bit of a strange question. When there's accidents, there was that bad one near Vauxhall, between Vauxhall and Scandia just a couple weeks ago where a woman was killed, and it was a 3-car collision. And many rumors swirl around about how the accident happened and what was this and what was that. And the Brooks Bulletin, next week Sandra had something in, but how do we find out the truth on accidents? Because you don't know what's happened. There's so much out there. Is there a way that we can find out what's happened?
Yes and no. So obviously, and this goes for any news. You have to assess where that news is coming from. So a trusted source, Sandra from us. But yeah, rumors, they're a huge problem. They've always been a problem since social media has exploded. And we do our best to try and combat that. If we see something that's kind of running amok, on Facebook that's not true and it's actually could cause some damage, we will put something out to correct it. But that's really it. Like you're always, I would say, I guess people could call the detachment, but if you're not involved, we're probably not going to tell you, just for privacy reasons. But we've been pretty good over the last year about putting out media releases to address significant files or files people would be concerned about. So really between that and the bulletin and other local news sources, I would just stick to that.
I would also just add, like, if there's something that's being brought to your attention as a counselor, where people are like, hey, this is what people are saying, and you're concerned, you can reach out to me and Dave. We might not be able to tell you, but we'd be able to say, hey, like, you got to tell people that's not correct. They need to wait for the information. That incident in particular was a Tabor police file. So we worked with them because we were a part of some of the things, but even, I just know from the investigation, they're still figuring things out. Sometimes it just takes time. When you had that many people that were involved in that collision, I think there was a total of 12 people. Like, that is a lot of people, a lot of moving parts. And when people are seriously injured or deceased, there's a lot of questions left. So those investigations, I just encourage all of you, they take time. Sometimes it can take months, just depending on collision analysis. Like anytime there's a deceased, we have to call a reconstructionist. So they have to come and assess the whole scene, which is why highways get closed down. And so they're looking at measurements, they're checking tire tread, they're doing all their things. It's so technical. And then they have to go back and write the report and then send it. And so we do our best to release some information, and we've been trying to flow a lot more with Sandra in the last year, just to get news out in a very factual way, because we want to cut down on the rumors. There's nothing worse than coming into going to my kid's soccer game and hearing parents talk about things, and I'm like, that's not what happened. But it's hard, right? We understand people want to know, but sometimes we have to redirect. It's a need-to-know basis, and please respect the families that are struggling. And sure, there's going to be rumors, and then there'll be insurance people that get on scene and they're doing their investigations. We all run separate. So we give them our reports, and that's where it stops. But we definitely appreciate a heads up, especially if it's something that, like that beheading rumor that went around last year. If you're hearing this stuff, just call us. Don't feed the rumor, please. You know what I mean? Just let us know so that we can also then put something out. Because I'm not on Brooks Rant and Rave. I don't want to be. But lots of people tell me what's going on. So, yeah, we appreciate that.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you for coming in to report again. I see you occasionally realize how fast time flies. So,
yeah. Right, yeah. No.
Good to see you. Appreciate you coming in and the good work that you do. Thanks on behalf of all of us. And also good to hear about the program to engage people with regard to the closed circuit opportunities and also advice with regard to that. I think that's an excellent opportunity. So appreciate
Awesome.
it. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming in. Yeah.
I guess I'll turn things over to my former assistant, Sergeant Schmidt.
Well, we'll welcome Corporal Joe Schmidt from the Bassano RCMP detachment. Welcome.
Well, hello, everyone. I think it's hard act to follow, following those ones. But enjoyed my time in Brooks, but took over the commander spot here in Bassano. So should be a few changes coming. Apologies on the report. It's my first one to you guys through this, and it's kind of piecing things together from Bassano for the last few months because things have been very fluid in that regard. So there should be some more consistency coming forward for them in the reports and that sort of stuff too. So kind of the significant events similar from Bassano. Obviously Brooks, Bassano have been working hand in hand together. So the theft that Sergeant Searle spoke about started in Tilly, came to Brooks, ended in Bassano. Another stolen from Bassano, ended up in Calgary. Same sort of ring in these rural properties. They're all connected. Some of the, specific events kind of from the Bassano detachment end of it was that one on April 18th of the stolen vehicles. May 14th, we kind of began a bit of a saga ongoing in Bassano between some of the of harassments and mischiefs related to youth and some of the residents in Bassano. It's been ongoing. It's still ongoing. So we're just basically it's youth and a person feels targeted for harassment in that area. So we're working with that person, trying mediation amongst the townspeople and that person because it's made a bit of traction on social media and Facebook groups and Brooks Rants and Raves. And lo and behold, I find out there's a Bassano Rants and Raves too. So wonderful. So a lot of issues, and again, as they spoke earlier, with the rumors and feeding of that, it's always that want to know versus need to know basis we go with. So, but a lot of information comes from there, and a lot of things gain traction. So, by all means, yes, phone them, phone me too if there are any questions. That we'd sooner be ahead of the storm to stop rumors and innuendos and things necessarily mushrooming out of control. But that issue is being dealt with currently, and hopefully it's starting to get a little bit mitigated. Another event in Bassano was on June 26th. We had a report of a female at the card lock lighting a fire in the middle of the card lock parking lot. And then as we were responding, rolling a tire on towards it. We went out there and it turned out to be a mental health related file. There was no damage or, concern for fire. She was quite a ways away from any gas pumps, that sort of stuff, but obviously concerning right on the side of the highway and the dry conditions and everything else. So that person was apprehended in the Mental Health Act and sought to seek some assistance through the medical system. I've been going through a lot of the Bassano reports lately, and I mean, most of them are all in kind of conjunction with Brooks. For the last few months, Bassano and Brooks have been currently hubbed together just for resources wise. We're slowly getting out of that now. Bassano has 2 recruits getting trained in Brooks. We have a couple members returning. We've been complemented with another position in Bassano's detachment, so it'll be 4 constables and now a sergeant, myself, in that detachment. So we should be able to get things back on track. The benefit of having Bassano and Brooks hubbed right now is it's been providing 24/7 coverage right out to everyone. So, and a lot of these crimes that we're speaking of are property related crimes. They're targeted for the nights when there was no like on-duty coverage. So there has been some of the stats will show that, property crime is up as far as possession of stolen and mischief and a break-in and stuff. Well, they're all centered to these one files because those charges are all part of that significant event. However, being able to go out to these smaller communities at 3 a.m. when the stuff is happening, even that visible presence has seemed to be, paying some dividends. So sometimes the citizens might not see us during the day. Well, it's necessarily when the crime isn't happening there from kind of the crime trend and reports we get. So that's been the nice part about this hubbing. It's currently going to be going on for a few more months at least until we're all back up resource-wise. There's an influx of recruits coming, new members, that sort of stuff. It just takes time to get them up and trained and on their own and viable and that sort of thing. So brighter days ahead, I guess, long story short with that. So any questions surrounding Bassano or whatever, for sure, fire away.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And also referring to the hubbing, I mean, I think we've appreciated good coverage through that, as you've indicated. I expect that will just continue and almost improve some more just with broader coverage, or that you're still working together at some level anyway, I would expect, eh?
Absolutely. Like right now, resource-wise, in order to complement Brooks and Bassano right now, we have one Bassano member assigned per watch of Brooks. So during the days, the Bassano member is out in Bassano. However, on evening shifts and that sort of stuff, if Brooks needs a hand, we can lend a hand. If something's busting loose in Bassano, they can come give a hand. And any of these kind of reports, and to touch on with the security cameras and stuff, they're extremely helpful for us. I mean, when I first arrived in Brooks, the potato farm down on Rolling Hills was getting broken into. It was a live feed. The owner was overseas on holidays watching a break-in happen. We were able to roll up and catch the person while they're stealing it. And we're able to do that safely and covertly to actually catch them, because there's not a lot of obstructions when you're approaching 5 miles away and the only headlights they see are coming. So we like to be able to do that tactily and approach those and catch them. It's one thing to have it happen, but we want to put the bad guy in jail as much as everybody else wants them in jail. And that video evidence and the way courts and crowns work right now is so crucial for identities and that sort of stuff. So having that 24/7 coverage, where necessarily sometimes, Bassano might have had one member attending. Well, now you can maybe get 2 or 3 guys together, come up with a plan, cover off entries, exits, this sort of thing, and catch the person doing that. And that news travels in their circle very fast, just as it does in these ones where they will, sometimes we're not going to solve all the crime, but we can sure as hell move it somewhere else. And it doesn't happen in our area if they know we have those response capabilities. So everything is very much more beneficial in that regard. We can lean on each other and respond better and have some results at the end of the day from it.
No, that's appreciated. And I think also, as you indicated, sometimes the surveillance at odd hours, I mean, people notice that when they've passed an RCMP vehicle in the middle of the night.
Absolutely.
In the middle of nowhere. And that's a good thing. And I see also referred to the stop out in Gem you made on the day you came out there for coffee. I mean, that was a good meeting from my observation too, in terms of a lot of the good exchange of information.
I think
both
so.
From you and also from residents who there weren't any issues, but a few things surfaced and people became more aware of what's available and how to communicate effectively. So it was really very much appreciated. So I appreciate
Thank you. And it was my pleasure to come. And I think that's the part that's missing is a lot of the community engagement, because yes, we'll get information. It's a lot of it, you're not going to make a report on, but it's a good to know. And so it's still, even in the days of social media and that sort of stuff, it's a word of mouth, or you have that conversation. You can get the guy, essentially the guys together and have a good, vent session, and all of a sudden somebody's pulling up their phone and, hey, I saw this weird pickup here driving by the other day and I got it on my camera. Seemed completely insignificant, probably wouldn't have get shared. But then we know, hey, actually that one came out to an email that I saw and it's very similar, and we can tie those things together. So it's those kind of informal meetings that seem to be beneficial. One other quick thing I want to touch on is, yes, it's important to get the cameras, but splurge for the extra $20 and get an SD card for those cameras to record what you saw, because live is great, recorded video is better. And each of these Amazon cameras I got a system on my place for like $200. I got 3 cameras. It's like Fort Knox around there. You can move them, all the rest of it, but they all can record. And that's the beneficial evidence to us, is that we want to be able to retain that and use that as evidence now, rather than just kind of hearsay evidence is how it's classed. So no, that's my intention is we want to keep, you know, this kind of model we have going because it's working and it's producing results going as long as we can to everybody's benefit and still provide that coverage. And, you know, we want to have people in the office in Pisano for everybody to stop by all the time too. So, I mean, it's probably going to go until at least November, and then we'll reevaluate things and see how it's working and what areas we can improve on from that point. So,
excellent. Thank you. Kelly, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank you and all members who participated in our busy summer events. I know you weren't able to be in Pisano, but you did send members, so we appreciate that, to the parade and the rodeo and all that fun stuff. And I know I saw pictures in Rosemary and Tilly and, of course, Brooks. So thank you for fitting that into your day, because I know that adds work.
Oh, thank you. That's the stuff we enjoy and kind of stuff we sign up for a lot of times. It's always a good barometer to see how the old surge is fitting, to know if you got to cut back on the steak or not as well. So there's that. Every November 11th, will this work or not? But no, it's our pleasure, and the guys are very motivated in doing those too. I would love to make the Pisano one because I'm a rodeo guy, but I was told my son's graduation was more important that day, so I tried to make the other 3 too. And it's very much scheduling wise. Most of the time, when you see the Brooks and Pisano members coming in, it's all on our days off. We do it because we want to be, not because we have to be, that sort of thing. So it's you know, it's good. We're working on improvements on the candy. I wasn't you know, happy with the candy we threw. It was kind of gross, but we'll get better next year.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thanks again for coming in. Appreciate your service to our communities and the opportunity to work together where we can, and that's very much appreciated.
Thank you very much. And we'll see you for coffee on Wednesday one of these days again.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hope I'm there. Yeah. Okay. Take care. We are up to 10.4, right? Yeah. Counselor payment sheets. 10.4, is there anything to discuss around that? Any questions or comments? And if not, a motion to accept the counselor payment sheets as circulated. Holly, go ahead, please.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor of approving the counselor payment sheets? That's carried. Thank you. Requests for functions of council. Excuse me. Item number 10.5, a group discussion for mental health and addiction on August the 8th. Is there some explanation on that that's required, or Holly, go ahead.
I was just going to add, if someone wants to go to that, that is the same time as our only council meeting in August.
Oh, it conflicts with the time. Okay. What's your pleasure? Holly, go ahead, please.
I think it would be good for someone to go. I mean, mental health and addiction is an issue everywhere, and to have some involvement in that. It's not an expertise area of mine, but I thought it was interesting.
And where is that at? Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, just for information here, there's 2 sessions, the morning or afternoon of August 8th. So you could potentially send somebody to the afternoon session. We won't be here all day on the 8th.
Okay, is that here in Brooks? Medicine Hat. Okay. Okay, what's your wish? Do you want to appoint someone to go? Kelly, and then Neil.
Just my thoughts. Is this higher level? Like, I didn't get a sense of what the material is going to be. Would this be something that FCSS would be attending as our social representative? How would political views be a part of this? Do you have any idea, Holly? No. So I would suggest that we refer this or recommend this to FCSS.
Okay, I think we can do that either by motion or just informally if we want to. We've got two representatives of FCSS here with us, so I think if, you know, seeing no other action, we can, that's good advice, okay? Halo fundraiser and first responders appreciation event on August the 1st. Who's able to attend that? I will not be able to attend that session. Neil can go, okay? Kelly as well? Okay, several people. I think a motion to make it a function of council would be in order if that's your wish. Holly, go
I'll make a motion that it's made a function of council for all who would like to attend and help.
Okay, all in favor of that, please indicate. That's carried. Okay, anything else that needs to be a function of council? Seeing none, let's move to committee reports. And we have a number. First of all, Grasslands FCSS. Holly?
I was just going to let you know that we had a meeting to approve FCSS grants, and FCSS has awarded grants to Girls Who Lead, who are bringing in a speaker. I'm just going to get my my package opened here so I can speak on it properly. So funding has gone to the MES with SPEC, doing some, which has a once a month drop-in place for youth to help with that program, as well as Girls Who Lead, who are bringing in a speaker, and giving some money to BCHS to work on a peace pit, which is when we come into the school to create that into a more open or welcoming area for students, adding some special things to it, reaching some of the kids who might not fit into the school as well, and try to offer more services for them. So just some projects that we're doing. Amanda, do you want to add to that? Because Amanda was there as well.
Holly, isn't the MES, isn't that every Wednesday, not just once a month? It's on Wednesdays, every Wednesday.
I will look it up. I thought it was specially in once a month, but it could be every Wednesday.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? That's it for the FCSS report. Thank you, Holly and Amanda. Let's Intermunicipal Development Plan Committee. Kelly, with Brooks, were you at that meeting?
I was, and so was Neil and Greg and Matt. So I'll start it off and they can add. Just high level, just to let you know that we met to start our conversation about an update on that agreement, recreation agreement with the City of Brooks, and that's the IMDP committee. And our next meeting is not set in stone yet, but at our next meeting, we'll be talking dollars. So really, there's not a lot to talk about at this point, just to let you know that we have started the process.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
And we did meet the new CAO of the City of Brooks, Chris Parker.
Great.
And yeah, so wish him luck in his, he was 3 days into the job when we had our get together, so pretty green, but pretty keen to get things going. City of Brooks gets a new finance manager. After September 6th, Shelley Thomas is retired. So lots of things up in the air there about finances and the agreement going forward. So we may run late in this agreement just because of all the changes at the city, but we'll endeavor to work towards our December 31st deadline as best we can. Anything I missed?
Greg or Neil or Matt, we're good? Okay, thank you. No questions. Let's move on to rec boards. Neil and Greg for divisions 5 and 10.
I don't think we have a whole lot to report.
No.
I haven't had a meeting this month.
Yeah, there's nothing really to report there.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't met. So.
Okay, thank you. Southern Alberta Energy from Waste, Neil?
That is in a bit of a, actually, there's been a little bit of movement. We're interviewing the 4 finalists for their second round of questioning and presentations starting Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. And there's a board meeting tomorrow to keep the rest of the board and the rest of you people informed as to what is going on. They're applying for grant funding. They want to get hold of the premier like everybody else does to bend her ear, so good luck to them with that. But yeah, we'll know more, and it's kind of a slow process because these companies some of them are on vacation and then they answer the questions and they come back. It's like CDC, hard to get information, hard to get the right people, but I'm thinking by the end of the summer, end of August, we should have narrowed it down to one good vendor and be able to introduce that vendor to the Southern Alberta, and away we go. But it's going to take one giant suitcase full of provincial money to make this thing go. There is no way around that. So be prepared to be asked to lobby. Every politician you see, say wah. Don't let them forget it. So.
I think there have been other technologies kind of surfaced at different cost structures than maybe what was originally there with EdgeSet, I believe, as well.
There's a huge difference in the technologies. Like there's a company from Malaysia that's dirt cheap, but we really want to go with people that have a proven track record. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of them out there that have the idea, which is great, but they don't have a facility running. We don't want to be an experiment. We want to be the real deal. So,
yeah. I did pass on someone's name and contact with Ray recently, and that sounded like that conversation was at least useful or moved things in a direction where
actually we went over that this morning. I can share this. We cut off applications as of July the 1st.
Okay.
So there's 4 companies left, and until we deal with them, it isn't fair to let other people come back in because they knew when the cutoff to apply for the project was. So we're going to deal with these 4 and see where they go. Hopefully one of them comes out with a good solid plan. And until we end up dealing with them, we can't deal with anyone else. So, yeah. But keep sending the information. Like you never know. And that's about the report for Sewa.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Neil? Seeing none, I think we'll have just a quick update on CDC South. There hasn't been much. Well, that's not true. Matt has been back and forth with infrastructure and agriculture multiple times in the last 2 weeks. Do you any update for us, Matt?
I'll just provide the Coles Note summary of what we're looking for and kind of where we're at. So there's 3 lease agreements for the 3 main CDC sites. For the CDC proper, there's going to be a sublease back to the Minister of Infrastructure so we can take care of our friends in the Department of Ag. The draft lease agreements are in with the Ministry of Justice for review. So that's good news, but we're just waiting for those to get reviewed so we can see final drafts and take them to committee. Once those are in a state that we're agreeable to, we'll see a draft of the sublease. As part of the sublease, we need to agree on $1 per square meter for the lease. I'm trying to get some detailed financial information out of infrastructure, which is a bit of a hot potato between different silos there. So we're getting closer. I'm hoping I can get the details I need so we're comfortable with that $1 per square meter. That sublease is going to be an important one to get right. And there's been a lot of variability in the costs for CDC South over the last 6 years, depending on the level of activity that has taken place there and whether or not the greenhouse lights are on or not. So we're trying to tease that out. Meanwhile, we've been working with our friends in the ag department to see what that relationship is going to look like, in terms of staff support and access to machinery and equipment, irrigation equipment on site. And that's starting to come together. So it's moving. It's not moving as fast as we'd like. And I think that's the reason the county is trying to broker the deal. We'll deal with the bureaucracy. We'll get lease agreements in place so that researchers and those who want to add value and use that site won't have to wait for a year to get these things formalized. So very frustrating, but we're making progress.
Okay, I think that's good information, and I think it's useful for us to have. On the other side of things, I will say that I've had, again, yesterday at the Matthias Ranch tour, had a couple of people come up and talk about, they'd heard that there was some things happening there and they're interested in either being a part of it or making recommendations of groups or other situations that we should look at. I think it's quite encouraging. The other place that I did have some conversations around this was at the Communities in Bloom judges hosting event. Again, all informal, but I think there's a fair bit of interest and enthusiasm for things starting to happen there again, and the fact that we're trying to spearhead some of that. So all looks good, just taking more time than we'd like, but I think even that indicates the importance of getting it done so that some things can happen there into the next year. Any questions? Seeing none, I have no other committee reports to consider at this point. We have no other post-agenda items that we haven't already dealt with. There are some information items. Are there any questions or comments about the information items? Seeing none, I think I'm prepared to take a motion that we move in camera. If someone's prepared to make a motion, and Amanda, please.
I'll make that motion to move into camera.
Okay, all in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you.